What is a living trust and how does it work in Utah? One of the most common estate planning questions people ask is that question. What is a living trust? How does it work? Many people hear the term trust and they just assume it's something complicated or something only wealthy families do. But a living trust is actually one of the most common estate planning tools that's used by homeowners and retirees. At its core, a living trust is a legal arrangement that allows assets to be managed and distributed according to instructions that you create. Now, a trust does need to be in writing and it does need to be signed by the trustor or the settlor, it's the person who creates the trust, and also by the trustee. The trustee is the person who manages or runs the trust. Now, think of it this way. Instead of assets being owned directly in your name, they are owned by the trust. You create the trust, you control the trust during your lifetime, you decide what happens to those assets after you pass away. Most living trusts used in estate planning are revocable living trusts. Revocable meaning you can revoke it or you can undo it. Living while you are alive. Trust meaning that you're trusting someone else with your assets. You can put someone in charge of those assets, the trustee. You maintain control over the assets. You can change or revoke the trust at any time during your lifetime. Typically, the person creating the trust serves as what we call the initial trustee. That person manages their assets exactly as they did before. However, the difference is legal ownership. The assets are now held in the name of the trust rather than in the individual's personal name. Why does that matter? Well, when assets are owned by a trust, they generally do not have to go through probate when the person who created the trust passes away. Probate in Utah is governed by Utah Code Section 75-3-101 et sec. When assets are owned individually, they often must pass through this court-supervised process before they can be transferred to the beneficiaries. But when assets are owned by a trust, the successor trustee, meaning the person who's next in line, they can step in and distribute those assets according to the instructions in the trust document. This can allow property to transfer more quickly and with greater privacy. Another important benefit of a living trust is incapacity planning. If the person who created the trust becomes unable to manage their affairs due to illness or injury, the successor trustee can step in and manage those assets. This can help avoid court proceedings such as a conservatorship or guardianship that's found under Utah Code 75-1-5 et sec. A living trust can also allow you to control how assets are distributed. For example, you might specify that children receive assets over time rather than all at once. You may want assets held in trust until children reach a certain age. You may want protections in place if a beneficiary faces divorce or financial difficulties or considering bankruptcy. A living trust can address all of those issues. Of course, a trust is only effective if it's properly funded. That means assets must actually be transferred into the trust from your name. If assets remain in an individual's name, those assets may still be subject to probate. This is one of the most common mistakes that people make when they create trusts. The documents exist, but the assets were never transferred into the trust. So proper estate planning ensures that the trust and asset structure work together seamlessly. If you would like help creating a living trust or review whether a trust makes sense for your specific situation, you can give me a call. I'm attorney Jeremy Eveland, 801-613-1472. You can also click in the link in the description below and complete a short application to see if we might be a good fit to work together. Hope you found this educational. Thank you for watching.